Let's go.
All right. Good morning. Thank all y'all for being here, and I want to welcome our newest board member, Mr. Stephen Gilchrist. Thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So, thank you.
I appreciate it.
I will give the invocation if you would bow your head, please. Father, we thank you for the chance to serve students across this state and to give them the opportunity to receive a quality education that utilizes their fullest potential. Help us as a board to review all available information to make informed and deliberate decisions that are child-centered, and let us not be distracted by anything that does not put their lives, learning, and future at the forefront of all of our actions. Amen.
Amen.
Would you stand for the pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The South Carolina Public Charter School District authorizes, champions, and supports the creation and advancement of innovative K-12 public charter schools that provide access to academic opportunities for every student in South Carolina to reach their fullest potential. Mr. Secretary, would you take the roll?
Mr. Butcher.
Present.
Mr. Butcher is present. Mr. Gilchrist.
Present.
Mr. Gilchrist is present. Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller is not present. Mrs. Mosteller.
Present.
Mrs. Mosteller is present. Mr. Payne.
Here.
Mr. Payne is present. Dr. Pope.
Here.
Dr. Pope is present. Dr. Strickland.
Present.
Dr. Strickland is present. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. And I need a motion for the approval of the agenda for the meeting today, February 9th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unopposed. And also approval of the minutes from the January 19th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Mr. Chairman, I'll be abstaining since this is
Okay.
my first meeting.
All right, so all in favor and one abstention. Are there any public comments, Marlene? Okay, thank you. Mr. Norton, I understand we are in need of an executive session.
Yes, sir, for the reasons stated on the agenda.
All right, I'll read them. We are in need of an executive session to receive legal advice regarding CAA notice of revocation and transfer request.
Make a motion that we go into executive session.
Okay.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. We'll go into executive session. Thank you. All right, y'all ready?
Well, hold on, let's make sure. Yeah, they're, are we ready?
Yes.
Are we ready? We ready?
Ready? All right, thank you. We were in executive session to receive legal advice regarding CAA notice of revocation and transfer request, and no action was taken. I need a motion to come back into public session, please.
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Item 9, action items. Mr. Norton, CAA revocation and transfer request. Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There are several potential motions for the board to consider. The first motion in response to the request from CAA for a revocation hearing pursuant to the Charter Act. The staff recommends and requests that the board set the revocation hearing date for the board's regularly scheduled meeting on May 11th, 2023. And we'd ask for an appropriate motion at this time.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
all right, is there a second?
So moved.
Is there any discussion? Having none, I'll call the vote. Let's take it by raising hands.
Mr. Butcher,
Yes.
Mr. Gilchrist,
Aye.
Mrs. Vosteller. Mr. Page votes aye. Mr. Payne,
Aye.
Dr. Pope, Dr. Strickland.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Mr. Norton?
Thank you. The second item on the agenda regarding Charleston Advancement Academy has to do with the petition for an injunction and application for receiver the district filed, excuse me, subsequent to the notice of revocation. You were, in your board packet was included an agreement to resolve the petition for injunction for you to consider. In addition, pursuant to some negotiations between legal counsel, we provided a draft memorandum of understanding pursuant to some potential settlement negotiations with the counsel for Charleston Advancement Academy and a brief conversation with Limestone's legal counsel for you to consider. And if there are any motions that the board wants to make regarding those at this time, the staff would like for you to proceed with it. Staff does recommend, or at least legal counsel has recommended, proceeding forward with these agreements.
Are there any motions?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion that we proceed with that. I want to put that on the floor.
Okay, is there a second? Having no second, the motion fails.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You good? All right, thank you. Fort Mill Academy Amendment, Ms. Farmer.
Good morning, Chairman Payne, members of the board, Superintendent Neely. Board members, you each have amendment memos printed in their entirety in front of you and any supporting documentation before you. I won't read the memos word for word, but rather present a condensed version summarizing the essential elements included in each memo. Our first amendment today is from Fort Mill Academy, and we actually have members present here today. We have Kevin Arrowood, the board chair, George Genero, a board member, and then joining us virtually, we should have Chris Black, the board secretary, Karina Enriquez, and Barry Black, both board members. In addition, we have Jennifer Lucas and Justin Matthews from Alliance Education Services, the AES, that is FMA's charter support organization. They're also with us here today. The mission of Fort Mill Academy is to teach children to become leaders in their communities and create collaborators, communicators, and change makers, both locally and globally, by empowering children to lead and learn, ensuring they meet their greatest potential. On April 28, 2022, the school was conditionally approved by the South Carolina Public Charter School District, PCSD Board of Trustees, to open a school in the Fort Mill area in the 2023-24 school year. The conditional approval was based on the school's ability to meet enrollment targets during the pre-opening conditions period and open the school with an enrollment of 554 students. The FMA board formally requests an amendment to delay opening until the 24-25 school year. To support the board request, representatives from AES are here today, as I've said, and have provided a letter included in your board packet outlining their commitment and support at the FMA board and the community for the delayed opening. The reason for the request: the FMA board and support team have conducted an exhaustive and comprehensive search of potentially conducive properties in the greater Fort Mill area since its initial charter application in 2019. During that time, 3 agreements have been annulled by property owners. The board has made 5 offers at or above asking price, all of which were outbid and declined. And the board has investigated over 50 potential sites for viability. The FMA board understands its commitment to the economic long-term stability of the school and requests additional time so that it can enter into an agreement for property acquisition and construction that is both in the best educational interests of its children and the best economic interests of the school as a business. Approval for a delayed opening will provide the fully committed FMA board the opportunity to identify, develop, and construct a site that enables the school to serve it and its community and fulfill its mission without sacrificing any of the goals or purposes described in the application. The next steps. The founding board has decided to continue its search for viable options in Fort Mill, as well as identified community needs in neighboring Lancaster County. Should FMA's property search provide the perfect solution in Lancaster County, the school will collaborate with local community leadership and provide a strong foundation for educational choice that further develops Lancaster County, offering families access to the school's unique program. If the property search reveals a viable option in Fort Mill, FMA will proceed as planned with the approved 1-year delay. The FMA board and support team are confident in their ability to meet the facility and enrollment targets with a delay in opening until the 24-25 school year, from both an economic perspective and a community needs perspective. The FMA board remains confident that a school site properly developed and ready to open in August of 2024 will be successful in meeting a consistently growing demand for school choice, specifically in the world language acquisition and an ever-increasing need to seat new families relocating in York and Lancaster counties. The school recognizes that a delayed opening and possible revised location to Lancaster may affect other material changes to its charter. FMA, with the support and guidance of PCSD staff, commits to submitting the necessary material charter changes in the form of an amendment for the May 2023 PCSD board meeting. District staff recommends approval of the amendment to delay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposal as submitted by staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I'll open it up for any board discussion. Yes, ma'am.
I just had one point of interest that I'd like to hear a little bit about, since they included it. Just some comments on the Alliance Education Services, which is their CMO. That would be their CMO. Would anybody like to?
Justin, Jen.
Hi, good morning.
Hello. Hi, I'm Justin Matthews. I'm the CEO of Alliance Education Services. We're a 501c3 nonprofit CSO, charter support organization. So we're not a CMO. How can I
How
help
do you
you?
distinguish that? What does that distinction mean?
The biggest distinction is all of our agreements are completely cancelable. We really focus on making sure that the school is the owner of the property and of all items. And we work under a performance agreement. And our goal is actually to incubate charter schools, and as soon as they're ready to operate on their own, we want them to be able to operate independently. So we're a very community-driven CSO. So in a lot of ways, we are just fundamentally different in the business approach. That being said, we do have quite a bit of experience opening charter schools, having opened over 40. And we carry creditworthiness, so that allows the charter schools that we support to borrow at the lowest credit possible. But again, I just want to make sure it's abundantly clear that when they do borrow, the property is in the school's name, always and forever.
How long is I'll use the word incubation, that might not be the right word, or your consulting. What is the time frame of that in years, or does it continue on and to
Yeah,
some
sure.
lower degree, or however it's working?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the charter incubating process is different for every charter school, as you guys know. We started to work with these folks here for Fort Mill in 2018.
Yeah.
And so we've gone through multiple iterations with a couple different authorizers. And, you know, quite frankly, this is a fairly long lead time, but we're committed to the process and getting it open, which is why it's an incubation process. We don't charge for any of this. This is actually all pro bono work that we do, and our goal is just to see kids walk through the doors on the first day.
And where are you out of?
The school, the corporation is incorporated in Florida. We have licenses to operate in 13 states.
Well, I'm glad to meet you,
Oh.
and what you do.
Yeah, I think we spoke last year,
Yeah.
if memory serves. Yeah, so we're a little bit of an interesting confluence of a consulting firm, which takes no, you know, they come in, give you advice, and then good luck, and then a CMO, which really I think their goal is to, you know, really create a school that fits with their management organization. So we kind of fill the gap between an independent program, mom and pop, if you will, and a CMO. We want to provide the strength of a CMO, but none of the requirements that go with it, because we want every school to represent the community that the charter is written for.
Yeah, neat. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions? Are there any of the founding board members here? No, I wasn't going to ask you a question. I was just going to give you words of encouragement. A decade ago, I was in your shoes. I was the first chairman of a charter school down in Beaufort. And we looked high and low and all over the place. Good facilities that meet OSF requirements and DOT requirements are hard. Keep looking, you will find something. So I am going to support your motion because I know where you are. I've been there. But I just wanted to give you words of encouragement. Just don't lose faith. Don't lose heart on it. It'll come around. Okay. All right. If there aren't any other questions, I will call a vote on the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Thank you. All right, Ms. Farmer, Midlands Arts Conservatory Amendment.
Yes. Okay. Representing Midlands Arts Conservatory today, we have Dr. Bates, principal, Quinn Brown, a lead teacher, Deb Droder, lead teacher, and Dominic Miarton, a board member. MAC's mission is to prepare students for arts-related careers, a lifelong appreciation of the arts, and for high-quality post-secondary studies. The school provides an arts-enriched, personalized learning environment, integrating academic rigor and quality arts instruction. MAC specializes in visual arts, dance, music, and theater. The school opened in the 2018-19 school year in Columbia, serving 6th and 7th grade students. And it currently enrolls 166 students in grades 6 through 11. MAC and its board request to relocate from the school's current location at 3806 North Main Street to an existing facility 4.8 miles away at 607 Bush River Road in Columbia. It's the former Remington College campus. The proposed 34,500 square foot facility is currently undergoing plan review by the Office of School Facilities. Renovation, which will take approximately 20 weeks, is required to properly upfit the building to meet the school's needs. Reasons for the relocation include the fact that MAC has outgrown its existing space. They are at maximum capacity. Moving to a larger renovated facility specifically designed around the school's unique needs will allow the addition of 12th grade in the 23-24 school year. It will also allow more separation between middle and high school students and will greatly increase the school's ability to recruit and enroll students. The school expects to reach full capacity, serving 400 students in the 26-27 school year. Finally, the newly renovated facility will greatly enhance the ability to hire and retain certified teachers. The financing plan. According to the school, it has secured an agreement to acquire the Bush River Road property for the price of $2.8 million. In addition, an estimated $1.2 million is necessary to bring the facility up to code and to appropriate standards for the school. MAC maintains that the seller is willing to provide financing for the property acquisition cost. The school is currently in discussions with 2 potential lenders about financing the $1.2 million in upgrades. A district financial analysis reports that the school finished the 21-22 fiscal year strong by increasing its fund balance from $133,040 to $290,462. The school is also above the industry standard for cash on hand with 52 days available. MAC's 10-year enrollment projections include a steady increase of students until full capacity in the 26-27 school year, and a budget projections align with student growth projections, resulting in a budget surplus in each subsequent year of operations. Our district staff fully supports MAC's change of location. We will support the renovations to the proposed facility, the new location's ability to provide a more opportune and fitting environment for the school's students to thrive, and the new facility's likelihood to increase student enrollment and teacher recruitment. So here we are at the chicken and egg scenario. Without approval from the PCSD board, the school is unable to procure the documentation required by district finance staff to fully vet the amendment, such as the seller's agreement, source documents for the financing options for the $1.2 million in renovation costs, additional source documents that substantiate the loan financing terms, and a Plan B should financing fall through or the school is not completed on time. So staff is unable to thoroughly vet the financial plan. So at this juncture, district staff recommends conditional approval contingent on acceptable facility financing arrangements. Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved. To accept staff.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll open it up for board discussion. Is there any discussion amongst ourselves or for the school leaders?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question for the school leaders. What's the current size of the current facility that they're in now?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry, the current square footage of the facility that you're in currently?
Would you be sure and speak into the mic, please?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. 20,000 square feet.
20,000?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question.
Ms. Musfeller?
Could you address, there's so many positive things here.
Yes, ma'am.
And if any of you want to break out in song or dance, we'd enjoy it. Feel
I will
free.
leave that to my dance teacher. I'll leave that to my dance teacher over here to break out in a dance for you. She can do that on command.
You can probably really break out some of those stuff.
She definitely would. She's always prepared with the choreographed dance.
I wanted to just know the one issue about the teacher certification and how is that going? And I would think it'd be just so enjoyable to be a teacher there because you're just, that giftedness in you is being transferred to those kids. But
Oh.
how is the teacher certification ratios moving along?
Absolutely. I have already hired 10 new teachers for next school year. They are all certified and highly qualified. current teachers that are not certified on my staff, they are all either taking the praxis to become certified, and they will do so before summer's end, or they are enrolling in a program to become certified. So we have plans for all of those teachers that are not currently certified. So I've already met with them twice this school year about those programs to become certified, or some of them just needed to take the praxis. And I'm going to meet with them again in April. I have already plans on the books to meet with them again in April if they need any additional push to go ahead and get that done. So they are well aware that they have to become certified or in a program to become certified to get that contract for next school year.
Well, that was like a great, you get an A. That was a great answer.
Thank you.
It's a plan. Thank you. Thank
You're
you, Mr.
welcome.
Chair.
Any other? Dr. Pope?
What's your recruitment plan in order to get your enrollment up to the 400 students?
Yes, ma'am. Well, currently, one of my goals when I came on as principal this school year was to increase our social media presence and to get our kids out in the community, because a lot of people do not know about Midlands Arts Conservatory. So I have already accomplished one goal, is to increase our social media presence. If you have noticed, MAC is out there. So we have already sent out 800 postcards just for our enrollment nights. We've already had a re-enrollment night in January. We had our enrollment night for families last night, which we enrolled 49 new students last night. My goal is to enroll 100 for this school year, so we're already little under halfway there. So we are continuously pushing for opportunities to get the community into our schools. We've had realtors breakfasts hosted at our school. We're always looking for opportunities to get community members in. I also have been invited to a town hall meeting with the community members in our area with the Hyatt Park area and those local businesses that surround our school, just so they know who we are and how we can better serve them as we are being good neighbors to them, and always just pushing myself out there and getting our students out there to perform so they know who we are. So just constantly getting the word out about Midlands Arts Conservatory.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? I have a couple.
Yes, sir.
What is your current rent per month?
That has currently been reduced, and it's $10,000 a month right
Is
now.
$10,000 a month? So looking at under financing plan, looking at the terms, estimated debt service in year one's $186,000, and that's $15,500 a month. If you've been reduced to 10, how do you make up the 50% increase?
I don't talk numbers, so I'm going to ask my board member to come over here.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me also thank the board for your service. I think we share your commitment to making sure every child in South Carolina can succeed. I think this school is doing an amazing job with that. So I think one point I wanted to make is, before we get into the numbers, and I'm a banker, so I love numbers, but I think key thing that's holding us back is the fact that the facility right now is not allowing really about 70 families that would like to recommit and sign up, but they want to know where the school is heading. So I think your conditional approval will go a long way to make sure that those parents feel confident that the school is moving forward and will continue to serve their children through 12th grade. So thank you for the
So is it
consideration.
like a chicken and an egg thing?
We're exactly stuck in that, and you're
Okay.
asking and Chairman Payne, you asked some fantastic questions by email as well about that financing. So a lot of the financing gap, as you can tell, the school is running a little bit of a surplus on cash flow, and also the ratios. We can't afford higher occupancy expense, and so we've been fortunate to get that reduced. I think the original was somewhere around 20,000. We've been able to get it reduced. We do have a very friendly landlord in the current facility, so they're working with us for as long as we want to stay, we can stay. So that's another thing. So we believe that with the increased enrollment, doing $15,000 a month in debt service is more than manageable.
Okay. What type of institutions are you entertaining offers from
We have a
Generally
very,
banks, mortgage companies, what?
banks are going to be very tough to look at a fast-growing school,
Right.
given that a lot of the cash flow will be based on projections, but we have engaged with two community development financial institutions that specialize in charter school financing. I come from the CDFI world myself, so I know a lot of those entities. They do have a special program for charter schools. They would potentially take a second mortgage behind the first and provide the upgrades to the facility. And so we have explored that with two of them. Both operate in South Carolina already and have some experience working with schools in the state.
I'm going to revert back to what I mentioned to the school earlier. I have been in your shoes when I was with the school in the Low Country. We had troubles finding someone who would lend because we were so new, didn't have a track record. We went with, and I don't know the exact term of what they are, but they were a lender. They were quite expensive. They thought a lot of their money. And we came to the vote, and we ultimately decided not to do it because we couldn't afford it. What that school has done, and they've done very beautifully since then, is, have you discussed or thought about going with USDA Rural Development out of Walterboro?
We have, unfortunately, this school is right outside of the qualified area.
Oh, okay. Because at least the school there that I was associated with, they helped a lot, and they had very, very great terms at the time. I don't know what they are now with interest rates going up. I couldn't tell you, but
That was a key consideration for us, and we will look at some of those options. Thank you for making that suggestion.
okay, all right. I'm just concerned about the numbers. So, but we've got a motion on the floor. I will call the vote. All in favor, please say aye. 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 None opposed. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Farmer, Palmetto Achievement Center for Excellence Academy Amendment.
Yes, we have Melissa Rabin, the Executive Director of PACE, here with us this morning. The mission of Palmetto Achievement Center for Excellence Academy is to ensure all students master foundational reading skills along with South Carolina college and career-ready standards to reach their full potential both in and out of the classroom. The school opened on North Main Street in Columbia in the 21-22 school year, serving students grades 2 through 7. PACE currently serves 228 students in 2nd through 8th grade. It's an alternative education campus delivering evidence-based, multisensory, structured language instruction to students and ensures more individualized instruction through smaller class sizes. The school is committed to providing a quality educational choice for students in South Carolina with dyslexia and other language learning differences. PACE firmly believes that dyslexia is a gift, and if given the proper tools for success, all students can be empowered to reach their full potential both in and out of the classroom. The first request, PACE Academy's original enrollment plan, as outlined in its charter, was to begin serving kindergarten and first grade students in the 2023-24 and 2024-25 school years, respectively. The school's board and executive director request to amend the school's charter to permanently suspend adding kindergarten and first grade. The reasons behind this request are that most parents are unaware that their children may have dyslexia at such an early age. In South Carolina, students are typically identified as struggling readers at the end of 3rd grade, and the majority of the school's wait list right now is composed of 3rd through 5th grade students. The school maintains that foregoing the addition of kindergarten and first grade will allow it to better focus on serving the diverse needs of the 2nd through 8th grade students it currently serves. PACE's second request, the board and executive director request to move the lottery opening window forward from December to February. Struggling readers are typically flagged by school districts using winter map benchmark testing, which leads parents to consider other school options for their children, such as PACE Academy, which specializes in educating struggling readers. Likewise, these same December benchmarks allow parents with children currently enrolled at PACE to make well-informed decisions as to whether the services provided at PACE remain a necessity for their children. Requiring a commitment to the school in December prior to obtaining critical information is too early and forces parents to make potentially ill-informed decisions related to the best school choice for their children. Therefore, the school proposes opening the lottery on February 1st and closing it the first week of March. District staff recommendation is approval of both requests. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion?
I have one simple question.
Yes.
Considering that all this makes so much sense, but considering that you're drawing from, I would assume, a wider circle than a traditional school, tell me what your transportation needs are and how those are being met.
We currently do not offer transportation for our students. We are serving children in all of the Midlands, from all of the Midlands school districts. Last year, I actually had 2 families from the Fortville area and 1 from Horry County as well. Our parents carpool a lot, and they, like my family from Horry County, while they were in the process of trying to sell their home, they would drive up to Columbia on Sunday night, stay in a hotel Sunday night through Friday morning, and then go home after school on Friday for the weekend, and then come back and do it all over again. And they did that for about 6 weeks until they could sell their home and get back into PACE.
A testimony to the need.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just wanted to make a comment under the first request, the last paragraph. It talks about your fund balance and 6 months of operating expenses. That's impressive, and I appreciate your fiduciary responsibility.
Yes, sir.
Also, you've got 107 days cash on hand compared to what normally is 30 days, so kudos to you and your staff.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? All right, I'll call the motion. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Thank you. All right, Ms. Farmer, Meeting Street, Jasper, and Buford Amendment.
Yes, our final amendment for the morning. And today we have Christopher Ruskowski, the CEO of Meeting Street Schools, joining us virtually, and Sarah Gruhaus, Director of Treehouse Family Services. The mission of Meeting Street, Jasper, and Buford is to empower young people from all backgrounds to become confident, productive, and principled members of society through excellence in academics. The school will open in the 23-24 school year in Hardeeville, drawing from both Jasper and Beaufort counties. They will serve 96 kindergarten and first grade students. The school's board requests to transfer Meeting Street, Jasper, and Beaufort's charter from the 501c3 Jubilee Charter School to the newly created nonprofit 501c3 entity, South Carolina Community Schools. The request stems from the fact that the school is no longer operating under the name Jubilee Charter School, as was decided in an earlier amendment, and the new nonprofit entity will better allow for the expansion in the future while not limiting the organization to one school type. The unexecuted transfer document is included in your board packet. District staff recommends approval of the transfer amendment. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, having none, I'll call the, did you have?
Just quickly, General Counsel has seen this contract, I assume? Yeah, okay, just double checking.
Okay. Any other? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been-
All right, Mr. Tom, come on down.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's the first time I've spoken in the afternoon in a while, I believe. Mr. Chairman, Superintendent Neely, members of the board, present to you the financial statements for the month of January 31st, 2023. After 7 months of operations, we expect 41% of the budget remaining. We're currently at 47%, so a little ahead of the game on that side. The first report is district office and school numbers. Again, total revenues is $90,643,155. Total expenditures of $90,461,470, or a net change of $181,684 through January. Next report is district office only. What you'll see is we received revenues of $317,884 for the month. Expenditures of $275,627. Total revenues for the year, $2,102,537, and then total expenditures for the year, $1,968,957. Change in fund balance of $133,580, and if we were to end the year January 31st, that would make our fund balance right at $1.9 million. Next report lists out our district office expenditures by division. Total leadership of $854,040, sponsor performance of $243,404, support and implementation $401,210, and then financial services and operations of $473,03, for a total district office expenditures of $1,968,957, or 47% remaining of the budget. Next report lists our EIA allocations by different terms and different categories and programs. Total is $187,576,694,68. Next report is the State Department report that lists those same revenues of $187,576,694,68. The next report is a graphical report of our monthly EIA allocations, and it looks at January, this quarter, beginning of January 23, and we'll update that for the rest of the quarter, February and March, to track that monthly. Again, you'll see January 22, we were at $14.3 million in monthly revenue, and now we're up to $16.242 in monthly EIA revenue. The next report does our EIA allocation compare beginning of the year. This is very telling. This includes our 45-day update with our schools. Originally, we started at $175 million. We're all the way up to $187 with the 45-day update. So we had a tremendous increase over almost $12 million from July through current on our EIA revenues. And then the last report projects out our fund balance if we were to end the year at June 30th. Again, we started the year $1,863,435 in fund balance. It takes the averages out for the rest of the year for the next 5 months. That projects out a fund balance of $2,321,425.08 at June 30th. Mr. Chairman, that completes my report for the month of January.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the financials as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All right, are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, the percent remaining in the expenditures by department, do you mind just saying a word about those?
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll adjust those when we have a spring budget amendment by category. I'm not too concerned with the individual categories by department, but we will make some adjustments in the spring to do a budget amendment.
Okay, and then you pointed out the big jump from December to January. Do you mind saying just a word about that?
Tremendous growth of our schools, students.
Okay.
Population continues to increase, and we see increases. I expect our EIA revenue next year to be at right about $200 million, to be honest with you.
How much?
$200 million. Wow. Based on projections, what we're seeing now, I have another report I was going to give you later, but we'll be close to $200 million in state money.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Board, I think to that point, what we're seeing is the new funding formula in South Carolina
Yes.
Yeah,
is really benefiting our schools.
Yes.
I mean, the 45-day count, that was the most money charter schools have ever received in the history of charter schools. So the funding formula is working.
Yes.
And by the way, it moved us into the 6th largest school district in South Carolina.
That's correct.
Is that student-wise or budget-wise?
Money, weighted pupil units, yes.
Money.
Students, money coming through.
Money.
Yes.
Well, thank you to the General Assembly and the governor.
Yeah.
And your,
Yeah, let's move to the, 6th largest enrollment-wise. Let's get there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions, Randy? Did you get anything? All right. We've got a motion on the floor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Our old buddy Stan Davis. How are you today, sir?
He seems like he's always good, doesn't it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the board, Superintendent Neely, it's always a pleasure to be among you. Thank you. I had the opportunity to sit in virtually on Emily's staff meeting, or commitment meeting is what they're calling it, earlier this week. And I'm so impressed with the progress that they're making toward the strategic plan. I thought Chris was joking when he said that we want to finish this 3-year plan in 2 years. I think they're going to do it. So I hope that's a testament to the commitment of the team, the accuracy of the planning that we were able to provide, and I hope what we bring to you through these micro-learning sessions is helpful in helping your evolution continue to add value to the parents and the students of South Carolina. So this is our third session, so I thank you for the opportunity first. This is our third session, and I've been calling them Leading Forward. Today we're going to talk about enhancing engagement. Previously, we looked at a few things around Kaizen, which is the art of continuous improvement. And I hope you've been reading a little bit about that going forward, because it's a fascinating topic and it's applicable everywhere. I got a couple of people who said they use it in the church, and I'm very interested in to see how that's going and how they're using that. We talked about in session 1 strategic thinking, about how perspective plays a part in your how you see things from top down or bottom up, and that certainly contributes to the experience level, the diversity of your board, the experience level, diversity of your staff, and the ideas that each of them bring to the table to help move this organization forward. In the second session, we talked about compliance framework, governance framework, and we offered some best practices for you to take a look at. I've been blessed to have access to a lot of people who generate best practices. I was sharing with one of the staff today that I've made contact with one of the guys that wrote the book on nonprofit organization board governance. And he's out of Minneapolis. He does work in Quebec right now. They're doing some groundbreaking things up there, and I can't wait to learn about those. But he's giving me access to all of his materials. So as I learn, I will integrate that into the material that I bring to you. We talked about what makes a good board member, both as a group and as individuals. So we covered those in our first 2 sessions. So today, we talk about the board's role versus the superintendent's role. Now, the reason this is so important is because I've seen organizations that didn't have that clarity, and they got crossways with each other sometimes. I've seen organizations where some of the boards start micromanaging the executive, and it made it difficult for him or her to do their job. I don't think you have that problem here. But I wanted to make sure that you understood what the lines of demarcation are and how each of the roles and responsibility plays into you growing and evolving as a leading institution in the state. I love hearing about the growth and the prospect of growth, and I think you're putting the right things in place. For the board's role, and I broke this down into 2 columns, of course, selecting the superintendent, compensation for the superintendent, annual budget. You're responsible for that. You cover those things. Long-term strategic plans. We did that 2 years ago, and you're putting that into practice right now. You're in implementation mode. Governance documents. Marlene and her team have been putting together things that will help you be more efficient and effective at finding information in one place so that you can read and learn about what are the guiding principles around your role and responsibility on this board. Overseeing financial and legal compliance and ensuring the organization has sufficient resources. That's part of your role as a board. Overseeing the superintendent and overall performance of the district office. Acting as an external advocate and diplomats in the public policy arena with stakeholders, community, so forth and so on. You should advocate for this institution or this organization. And here's one where I always get the gotcha for board members: performing annual board evaluations. Now, a lot of boards don't do that, and I recommend that you do. There is an organization with the University of New Hampshire that has developed an online tool that will allow you to assess your board in terms of what they know, how they operate, how you engage yourself with the mission of the organization. And you can do this almost every 2 years to get some mile markers in terms of where you are and how you are evolving. I found that tool to be exceptional. And organizations that I've worked with that have used it have seen continuous improvement, or Kaizen, remember that? They've seen that in action because you now know what you need to fix or tweak to hit the next level of excellence. So those are the roles of the board. So I want to, with all those things on the left-hand side of that sheet, I think you're doing all of those things. I want to encourage you to do the evaluation piece if you have not done that, okay? So please consider that. In terms of the superintendent's role, of course, running the office in line with your direction, keeping the board educated and informed, seeking counsel of the board, recommending goals and policies supported by background information. His team pulls together things so that it clarifies what some of the detail are in some of the requests that are being made or trying to be understood. Framing decisions in the context of the mission and the strategic vision, and then bringing the board well-documented recommendations, which you hear those at these meetings. Bringing the board timely information in concise, contextual, and comparative formats. I was so encouraged sitting in on Emily team's meeting the other day, seeing how you have become data geeks, almost. You know, data is everything. Understanding the story and the narrative behind the numbers is powerful. And your team is working on that now. And I was very impressed at how they conducted themselves in looking at the numbers and then kind of crawling into them and then seeing, you know, well, why do we think they're here or there? What can we do to improve them? And so they're starting to, I call it data mining. They're mining down into layers of those numbers so that they tell a story. Now, what we would like to see is as that story becomes clear, it becomes one of the tools that you use to advocate for charter schools in South Carolina. Because as a Kaizen person, I always want to know 3 things why things are the way they are. You know, can you explain that to me? And if you can do that, I won't ask you all those questions and get you confused. So if we can simplify this presentation that they're doing, it'll impact your ability to go out and talk about the school district's performance compared to the state schools. Very, very powerful. Communicating with candor and transparency, responsive to requests for additional information, keeping the board informed, bringing recommendations and mobilizing trustees to advocate for the district's mission. That's what we're talking about here. Arming you so that you can advocate better. A lot of board members don't know that it's part of their responsibility to sell that mission, to help people understand why it's important and of value to the people you're serving, the parents and the students. So when we look at these, we come up with some best practice tools for clarity and intent. And I like clarity and intent because if something is simple and clear, it's easy to go out and use. But if it's complicated, maybe not so much. So we created a checklist, and I worked with a couple of people to pull this together. We started out with 25 items on the checklist, and I said, that's too many. So we narrowed it down to the 12 most important things, and I provided those with you on the next 2 pages. And these are recommendations. They're not absolutely necessary for you to do these, but I highly recommend that you consider them because they are important and they do produce results. So these come from the high-performing organizations that we've scanned across to look at how are they becoming high-performing and how are they maintaining that. So these are 12 things that will allow the board and the chief executive, in your case the superintendent, to really work as strategic partners in moving the mission forward. And the first one is that the board chair and at least one of the board members should discuss a checklist like this that you all use that's yours. And you look at it every year when you're board, you bring on new members, you go through that checklist annually to make sure that everything is agreed upon between you and the superintendent. Conduct board training, similar to this, but I would like for it to be more engaged so that we can actually work on some things and have some challenging exercises for you to do. But that might not be realistic here. But that helps clarify the roles and the responsibility of board members and the superintendent. These are always encouraged, especially when you bring new members on board, to help orientate them toward their role and responsibility with the board. And of course, this next one is very, very important. Board members should implement an annual calendar of activities that they share so that everybody's on the same page and they know what's coming up and what's next. I think you're preparing that now, and you probably have it already done, but that's something you want to continue to do to make it easy for everybody to do what they need to. And then the board members should approve, orient the superintendent and to update personnel policies. Any changes that happen at the state, federal levels that might change your hiring practices should be something that you should look at through your policies and procedures manual. And that would allow the superintendent to hire, supervise, evaluate the people that report to him in the organization. And you will keep a strong bench of folks that can really get things done for you. I like having access to folks that may not be here yet, that you know you're growing, so you're going to need folks down the line to grow your organization. Learn who those folks are now as part of this process. And then evaluate the superintendent. This is one of the things that a lot of chief executives miss out on, is that annual evaluation, so we can make sure that you're doing what you need to be doing based on what our plan says we should be doing. And keeping that in line so that the superintendent always knows this is what I need to be working on to achieve excellence per my board. Annual strategic planning. They call it strategic planning, but I like to call it annual planning, because the strategic plan should carry you out 3 to 5 years. Your annual plan should look at actions that you're going to take in the next 12 months that's going to help you make progress toward that strategic plan. The staff had developed an annual plan for this year, and when we do the retreat in later on this year, hopefully May, June, that time frame, that we'll work on the annual plan for the next school year. And that will allow us to go ahead and lay that out, get it on paper so that they can track and measure their progress. The board chair and the superintendent working collaboratively to create the board agenda. I think you're already doing that, but that's the best practice. The board chair consulting with the superintendent to appoint committee chairs, because he or she may know more about the people that are coming into the organization than some of the members themselves, so you can make recommendations based on a person's strengths and their interests. And then regular written reports should be provided, and Chris does a great job of doing this to keep you informed on what's happening with trends, issues, or anything that might be coming down the pipe. He keeps you updated on what's happening over in the General Assembly and what the government is talking about in terms of schools and education and how some of those things are coming about. Now, staff participation in board committees should be something that's dictated by your bylaws. And your bylaws are pretty clear, they're pretty explicit, and you have copies of those in your notebook. And here's something that I think you're going to end up gravitating toward as you expand and grow. The larger you get, the bigger your team, you might consider having a personnel committee on your board. And that would mean having someone with some seasoned HR experience to help guide Chris and his team, because that's stressful, and that's a lot of times when you're growing so fast and you're trying to keep people organized and leverage their strengths so that they have good work experiences and they bring value to the organization, he may need help doing that sometimes. So having a personnel committee as part of your board committee might be something that's really helpful. I recommend that as the staff size gets beyond 32, that you consider this. We've seen organizations explode and then problems get created because they grew too fast and they didn't have anybody helping them on the board so that they can help them manage that growth. And then, of course, the last one's the obvious one. The board should elect a different board chair every 3 years. That's the best practice, okay? Are there any questions about that checklist?
Are these things that are recommended that we do now or things that we should have been doing all the time?
They recommended that you do now.
Now.
Now, yeah, because you've gone through the strategic planning process. You've gone through an evolution where you're growing and you're kind of laying out some new territory to explore. And I go back to some of the goals and objectives that's in your strategic plan. So as you accomplish those goals and objectives, these are some goals and objectives that the board might consider in terms of matching up with that growth. Okay? Any other questions? So, we've created a couple of tools for you to use, and I think you've already gotten copies of these. Let's see here. You all have received this document, right? This is a great advocacy tool, and let me tell you why this is important. It gets everybody on the same page. This is created out of simplicity. So you see the different colors, and you can refer to the mission, the vision, the values, and then what the elevator pitch is. And each of you can kind of personalize this pitch for your style of communication. Now, why do I like this approach? Because there was an organization down in Charleston that not a lot of people knew about, but they were doing some wonderful work. I heard mentioned earlier the term CDFI. I didn't know what that was until about 5 years ago, Community Development Financial Institute. Well, there's one in Charleston that was doing some wonderful work, but not a lot of people knew about it. So during their retreat, we developed the model that I gave to Emily to consider using for what you're doing here. They developed that one-page messaging tool, practiced it at the retreat. Board members paired up and started practicing the elevator pitch with each other, and it was kind of fun to watch that. They then went out into the community and started sharing with people they knew and people that were in their circle of influence. And they ended up with money pouring into the organization. They raised $300,000 to add to their coffers to lend out to community small businesses and charter schools. They can lend to them as well. This messaging process works. What I like about it is that people who did not know about the organization started volunteering to help it. So think about that. You're picking up advocates with tools like this. So consider how you can use this as a board member to help get the message out about charter schools, especially with all this data that the team has put together and the explanations that go with it to support it. When you're talking to the politicians, or you're talking to the leaders in the community, or you're talking to folks you have influence with back home, this tool can help you better inform them in terms of why this is important for the state of South Carolina. So with that being said, Chris, I took your advice and kind of rewrote this thing about the exceptional charter school district to match up what you shared with me. The South Carolina Public Charter School District excels at achieving their mission because their Board of Trustees provide high-level vision, effective leadership and oversight, ensures adequate resources, and provides sound stewardship of the organization's assets while complying with all regulations and guidelines to ensure that the district puts kids first in everything they do. This is kind of like a tagline that you can use as a tool going forward. So that concludes my presentation for today. Are there any questions that I can answer for you? I hope this information was useful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And our next one is in March, and if you have any specific topic areas that you would like for me to research and best practice for you, email those to me and I'll make sure that I include them in our March session. Okay? Thank you.
Don't you just love having Stan on our team?
Yeah, really.
I mean, he just does such a great job. And Stan, we enjoyed having you on our commitment meeting. Where'd he go? There he is. Enjoyed having you on our commitment meeting. I'm always in, we talked about the other day about being in awe. There's a new book out. I read about it in the Wall Street Journal, and it's about awe, like those little moments, like maybe it's a conversation you had with somebody, or it's an experience, or that song comes on the radio, makes you think about something really special. Tracy shared with us this morning that, you know, coming to work, there was a lady behind her, and I mean, she was just getting into some song while she was driving down the road, and it just made her feel good. But Stan, you always, you're just awe presence. And, but we appreciate that, and I always like to say Kaizen. First up on the superintendent's report, we'll have a sponsor performance update by John R. Payne.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of our Board of Trustees. I'm going to give a brief charter update or update on where my programs are, inasmuch as I have begun getting kind of itchy hands ready for the spring to get here so I can get in my gardens. It is our busy time. It is our season here in the charter world. So as you know, we've got 5 schools that are renewing their 10-year contracts with us. We've made site visits to all of those, really enjoyed an opportunity to get out and see their staff, meet their children, go into their classrooms, and appreciate them inviting us there. We'll be bringing those recommendations to you at our next month's March meeting to recommend we continue our partnership with these 5 schools. As part of that continuous improvement, we are also working to revise the process for our renewals so that we staggered it a little differently so that it gives our schools some time during the summer to work on their renewal documentation and not have to kind of juggle that with, you know, trying to do that in the midst of an instructional school year. So more information on that will be coming. We received 10 applications on February 1st from the South Carolina Department of Education. As you recall, we shared that we received 20 letters of intent, and of those 20 letters of intent, 10 submitted applications. We have just completed, as of Tuesday, our completeness check for those. 4 of those schools did not need any additional information. The remaining needed a little bit more to some that needed a little even more than that. So we are beginning to review those applications with both internal and external reviewers with really concrete, much better tools in looking at those applications, because we want to make sure that we are chartering schools that indeed put kids first in everything that they do. We're excited for that. It's going to be a bit of work, but we're looking forward to that. In terms of just some of our support, we hosted our final Year Zero Academy for our schools that are in Year Zero. That was held on January the 14th. We then brought all of our internal and external reviewers together on January 25th and provided a training for them on rater reliability and inter-rater reliability, just so that we can ensure that we're all looking and contemplating applications as we look at applications in comparison with the state application that the department has on their website, to make sure all those parts are met and we're all on the same page as we go through and review. With respect to accountability, typically annual reports are due from charter schools on December 31st, but we did secure a 1-month extension from the department because the department was late in getting out the report cards. They were also late in getting out the template for the annual report. So we have received those annual reports, and we are going through them as we speak to review their goals, the information they provided in, and we'll do, for this year, a comparable process like we did last year, where they will get some kind of summary report based on the various metrics that we look at while we begin to migrate into the new accountability system that our core team of school leaders around South Carolina are still contributing to. We will submit our report to the State Department of Education. Our due date is February 28th, but our goal is to try to get it to them just as soon as we get all of our work wrapped up and done. We're collaborating with district and staff and other teams on data collection and website improvements. And just kudos to our colleagues and the other departments here, because they really have joined us at the hip as we looking at data and contemplating processes and identifying proactive supports that we can put in place. And we are continuing data compilation for our Charter Goals workshop. So about a month or two ago, Dr. Kelly Pugh came and she worked with our 5 renewal schools on really looking at their goals and contemplating what those goals mean in context with their data. She has offered to come back on February 28th as well as March 1st, and we have invited all of our schools to bring teams to one of those 2 days where she will work with them on really looking at their charter goals, identifying, are they measurable? How can they improve them? How can they attend these goals to really further their mission, further our mission, and most importantly, demonstrate the success that we know that they're doing in improving children's lives. So we're really excited about that and excited to have Dr. Pugh here. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes my updates.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. We appreciate that report, and we appreciate the work you and your team are doing. Just a few notes. We are excited about the new charter applications that we received, but I want everyone to know we're not into numbers. The bar is going to be high to get a charter in this district. You're going to serve all kids. You're going to have strong SMART goals in your charter. You're going to demonstrate capacity, board governance, and you're going to have local support. We've got to set the bar high. This needs to be something that's coveted, and then when it's awarded, they're going to go and do the right thing on day one for all kids. At this point, we'll have Michael come back up for a finance and operations update.
Yeah, thanks. Real quick. Thanks, Chris. Just a general update on finance and operations. We had SC Whitmore in here Friday. We were glad they were here because our sprinkler system started leaking in the PD room. So luckily it was a Friday and staff were here because we had to run and find a sprinkler emergency service. So our good friends at Good Life are taking a look at the tech in the room right now to see if we have put in a claim. So fingers crossed that'll work out okay. But MAC has been here for events. Again, they had something last night with over 40 people. We have a Black History program coming up, as well as Junior Achievement and Beta Club coming up this week, in the next few weeks. We're also working on a patio project, a beautification, get more planters out there and some umbrellas. So hopefully by March, we get the contractor in, we get some things done. By the next time you come here, you should see that. And then also it's budget season. Chris has already presented on House Ways and Means. Our current projected weighted pupil unit is well over 57,455. We're currently at, you see on that sheet, we're at 40-some thousand weighted pupil units. Again, that's a graphical sheet that shows we are top 6 in the state when it comes to weighted pupil units and funding coming through. If you look at both authorizers together, we're number 2 in the state, right below Greenville. So that's a tremendous amount of growth and change. And we'll have Senate Finance coming up soon, probably the end of March. And then we'll update these projections from our schools coming up in the spring as well. But again, we'll do first reading in April, second reading in May, and the third reading in June. Go through that season. So it's here. Yes, ma'am.
When I look at us with Erskine, what would you say the percentage of, and John R. Payne might know this, percentage of virtual students or the virtual schools?
We only have one virtual school, correct? Whitmore?
Yeah, and they
Erskine probably has a good percentage of their students are virtual, without knowing the exact.
That's what I was just wondering, what their percentage of the 54,000 was virtual. So
I could find the number.
Different, okay.
We could find the number.
Tell me later.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
We can look up that information and provide it for you. SC Whitmore is just over 400 students. At this time, we'll have a support and implementation update from Emily Baker.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I have 3 highlights to share with you today on behalf of my team, but I first want to give a shout out to our teammates that are supporting John's authorization team in renewal work, in application season, and all of the things. So that's some of our favorite work, so we ensure that we take the time to do that properly so that we have high-quality charters in our portfolio moving forward. The first thing I want to update you on today is Multi-Tiered Systems of Support, or MTSS, yet another acronym for you. There's an upcoming federal document called the SEED document that's going to be implemented in 2027. Essentially, MTSS is General Education Intervention Services for students in both academics and for behavior. We are preparing our schools to make sure that they have the capacity and the proper implementation for that SEED document that will go live in 27. Some of the things that our team is doing, we're collaborating across programs and with our special ed team. Rihanna Smith, our state programs coordinator, and Megan Lima, our school psychologist coordinator, have built out, as you see here, much support for our schools to ensure that they are prepared and ready for 27. They most recently presented to our special ed coordinators so that they could have time to reflect on their current implementation. They're publishing a web series this March through May, and then also have plans for focus groups coming this fall. Medicaid update. Dee Drayton joined us just a year ago. Next week, she'll celebrate her year anniversary with us, if I'm not mistaken. And this time last year, if y'all remember, our Medicaid portfolio consisted of 3 schools that were claiming Medicaid services at their school, at their site. We currently have 15 Medicaid contracts. So Dee has grown our program from 3 schools to 15 schools. She has partnerships with 2 private providers that are serving our students. That's SkyUp and Inner Peace. She's currently working to train those schools and also working with CGM, the platform that they use for Medicaid billing. And CGM is being receptive to some improvements that we are asking them to make. Dee's work is cyclical, so while she has just onboarded and got us to 15 contracts, it's time to get ready for next year. So we'll have our state audit, this April, and then right after that audit, she'll get busy for FY24. And the final thing I want to share with you is a project that we're about to start across all of our teams. We are going to complete a formal district comprehensive needs assessment. I know our schools right now are getting ready for FY24. We are also getting ready for FY24 pertaining to federal activities and the use of federal funds. So we're going to walk through a formal process together to reflect on internal needs that we need to use federal funds for, also reflecting on common school needs across our portfolio so that those federal activities are written to truly reflect our needs. The exciting part about this for me, and I don't know if my team feels the same way, but we are going to archive our process and we're going to share that with our schools. They have to walk through this process every year, so we want to show them how we have done it so that maybe they can pick up a best practice or a tip from us along the way. And that concludes my report without any questions.
I have one question, apologies. Could you just tell me a little bit about the benefit, how strong it is about the Medicaid growth? And not only have you numerically grown it, but what does that mean to a family in a school?
Yeah,
I wanna
so
feel
Dee can
that.
best articulate that, and I will probably botch this, so she can correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially, the students are able to receive services at the school, and then the school can receive credit and payment for those services that they're able to render.
So the Medicaid program offers several different types of services for the schools, such as occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, and mental health services, and nursing services. And the schools are able to take part in those services, which is allow the schools to provide those services and receive reimbursement for those services. Thus, the school can provide, receive that money for those services and use that money to provide any type of services within the schools that can benefit the school.
And let me ask you, what does that mean to parents considering making a choice for a charter school?
Well, those services are offered in the schools, so
Right.
this way they can say, the charter schools can also provide those same services so that they will see that the charter school can receive them, the schools can receive them, so that way that they won't feel like they won't be left out if they go to a charter school.
And under the repertoire of our schools, how many schools would be a goal to have these services?
Well, I would say that all of them, they all can receive those services. They all can benefit from those services. We're talking to all of our charter schools to try to encourage them to receive those services, because at this time, again, that money can be used in the charter schools as they see benefit to help them to improve or to provide any other services that the children may need.
I want to thank you for that, and also I want to thank our superintendent for having the experience at Myers Center and the heart to bring this across the board in our paradigm. So I thank you all three. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Emily and Dee. Dee has done a tremendous job growing that program, ensuring that we're compliant. It is important. When the traditional schools, they have so many other resources with local tax dollars and all, then they can provide all the services and make sure the kids are getting all the therapies they need that are in their IEP. Charter schools, because we don't have, the local dollars, it makes it a lot more challenging to try to figure out how to fund all these therapies and support services. So having the Medicaid option, gives families the confidence of knowing that no matter which public school they go to, the kids are going to get the services that they need. So I really appreciate that. We'll have Emily Paul come up and give you a strategic plan update.
Good afternoon. I will just go through some quick highlights because this is in your board packet, so I'm sure you've had a moment to peek at it. In organizational development between December and January, we conducted some of our quarterly performance reviews, but we also surveyed the staff and the employees that are conducting those reviews to kind of get feedback on our system. If you remember, we started that system in August, and so we went through the first quarter and then got into the second quarter and realized, wow, we just did this a few weeks ago, it feels like, and so maybe it was too much. So we asked our staff for some feedback on that, and in the next month we'll be reviewing that and making some tweaks to that system. In last month's board meeting, you got your board binders from Marlene, and in that binder is a long list of acronyms, including MTSS that Emily just talked about. Thank you to Louie for that. She put that together with the staff. She kind of coordinated everybody and made sure that that got in there. That will be updated on a frequent basis because we know we love to add acronyms every few months in our world. So that will stay up to date for you, but please reference that, and if you have questions about anything that you hear acronym-wise, let us know, and we can update that in there. In internal and external communications, Drew actually a couple commitment meetings ago led our staff through some policy and procedure about the way we communicate with schools, just the style. So we're using consistent number terminologies and bullets and those kinds of things, and that's just meant to make our communications a little more digestible for our schools so that they're getting a consistent way that we're communicating with them. And then finally, between December and January, we started to brainstorm the legislative day that we talked about in the strategic plan and kind of what the purpose of that is, how we might pull that off. And so that was a long conversation of just a lot of different ways we could do that. And so moving forward, we in advocacy will be kind of defining that a little more and creating a plan to move forward with that legislative day. That will likely be work that continues into next year just because the calendar is really busy. We want to make sure we get the participation that we would like for that. And then I really want to focus on operational excellence, the bullets in that box, for the rest of my time up here. So we have been working as a staff on direction, commitment, and alignment. We have our alignment team, which is Chris and Emily and Michael and John Payne and I. And then we also have our direction team, which brings in our chiefs so that everybody is kind of on the same page, knows what's going on in the office. And then we've got our commitment team, which is the full staff, where we do all kinds of things, look at data, go through, hot topics, things that are going on, and making sure that everybody gets the kind of professional development and just comes up to speed with what's going on. We are continuing that alignment work by going through job descriptions in the next couple weeks, just making sure that everybody's is up to date and there's no overlapping areas where maybe we're all working on the same thing and wasting time. So we will be working on that alignment work in the next couple weeks. We also did a shared services survey to our schools, and we have about 6 priority areas that we'll be looking at to see if there are shared services we can offer to kind of do 2 things. Number one, kind of lessen the burden on our schools to find some of those resources themselves. But number 2, if we can kind of use collective bargaining and get some discounts on some things they're already doing, that will help them as well financially. So we'll be looking at that. And then we will be celebrating our successes thus far. So one of the things that I have found really fun in the strategic plan is just to get our staff together and kind of share all of the things that they're doing to help us accomplish this, because I know I've said this before, this is not a one-person plan. Every single person on our staff is working on it, and even if it's not something directly tied to the strategic plan, it is something that they're doing that allows us to all focus on something in the strategic plan. So we do that every couple months, just get together at a staff meeting and talk through all of those wins. And so we just actually did that on Tuesday, and Stan got to listen in. So that is my report for now, pending any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily, and appreciate the great work on the strategic plan. So I wasn't joking. I mean, my goal would be for us and the board to have a new strategic planning committee put together so that next year we can launch into the next phase. So we can design another 5-year plan, or maybe, Stan, we just go with 3 and go that route. But we'll let you advise us. But the bottom line is, it's been a collective effort on the part of everybody. And I hope y'all find these sessions with Stan to be valuable. I do. I'll be submitting to you next month my evaluation, so you'll get that here in the next couple weeks. So we always do that in March. So I look forward to your feedback on that. Couple observations from some of the staff reports. So I wanted to go back to the enrollment and the 45-day report and the money. Don't forget, one of the reasons why we've grown so much in terms of dollars is because of the diversity of our students. See, the weights are based off of poverty and support and disability. So the higher your population of students with poverty, and ours is 50.9, it's going up. Students of color, 47%, and then students with disability, 17%. When those numbers keep going up and you become more diverse, that means more dollars are coming in. That means you've got more money to support kids and do the things you need to do to help fill the gaps. So I want you to remember that that's one of the reasons why we've grown as a district in the state, is because we continue to grow and become more diverse. We're open to all kids. I'm going to go ahead and talk about this now. So Michael informed, he's behind me over there, I hear him snickering. So, you know, Michael's been in education practically his entire life. I'm not going to say how old he is, but he shared with me recently when we sat down for his evaluation that, you know, he said, Chris, you know, my 28 years is coming up soon. There's some other businesses and things I'd love to do down the road, you know, do something different than, you know, watching over the finances of school districts. And I think I might retire. And so on Tuesday, he told the whole staff during the commitment meeting that he has decided that he's going to retire this fall.
Denied.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, Michael, you're not going anywhere. Yeah. You have to do your hot dog stand on the weekend.
Yeah.
But I you know, Michael has done a tremendous job the last 3.5 years. You all know, most of you, he inherited a very challenging situation here at the district.
He inherited a mess.
He did. I'm being kind. But he has straightened it all out. He's built out a new team that's just done amazing work. We had to take on all this new federal money in the ESSER program, and he had to build out the team even more to make sure that schools were doing the right thing, make sure we were being compliant. You know, we got a clean audit this past year, and, you know, that took a lot of work. And then on top of that, he took on, you know, the responsibility of the move and the purchase of this building so that all our schools could have access to it and have it as a place for graduations, performances, and all that. So we're going to celebrate Michael later in the fall. The timeline on a new CFO would ideally be put a posting up here in the next couple weeks. We'll have different panels for interviews, and then make a decision and then hire by May 1st. And then there would be kind of a left seat, right seat between Michael and the new CFO all the way through Labor Day. So there'll be several months where they'll be working together. And then that way we've got a smooth transition going into audit season. Michael's committed to that. And so we appreciate the fact he's willing to stay on a little longer. But I just think that transition is very important. It also gives the board a chance to see the two of them working together as we, you know, start to hand over the books. But I think it's very appropriate at this time that we all give Michael a standing round of applause. And we don't have any like district awards, but maybe we need to come up with one. You know, we got the Order of the Palmetto at the state level. We need to come up with something.
It's called the Michael Tom Award.
Michael Tom Award, that's right. The Woo Award, hey, that is his nickname is Woo, so we're going to have the Woo Award.
For the relatively new board members, including one starting today, there was a time when our finances were in shambles. We had audit finding after finding after finding after finding. And Michael came in and he turned the ship around. So my hat's off to you, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, I will never forget Michael and the work that he did and the support. He's been an extremely loyal deputy and somebody that has really helped me, you know, through this transition the last 3 years, and he's going to be greatly missed. But he won't be far, and he won't be bored. It sounds like he's got a lot of ideas about new ventures he wants to get into, so be on the lookout for those. I want to welcome our new board member, Stephen Gilchrist. Stephen and I have known each other a long time, and my late uncle and he were really good friends. And Stephen's going to bring just so much new blood and expertise. He's been in the charter world for a long time. He's been a big fan of school choice. He was appointed by the Senate President, Senator Alexander, and when Stephen and I went and sat down with Senator Alexander, we just had such a great conversation. So I know he's put a lot of trust into Stephen, and I do too. You know, he's the CEO of the South Carolina African American Chamber of Commerce, but a lot of people don't also realize he has a federal appointment. He serves on the U.S. Civil Rights Commission. So he brings so much other knowledge and experience about civil rights and issues like that. I think that's going to be invaluable for this board. So that's a huge honor that Stephen has and a big responsibility, but what a benefit to us and this district. So Stephen, welcome.
Thank you.
Just a few things here. You know, we had our kickoff meeting with Erskine on the Kids First Conference, which is coming up in September, and the two staffs got together, and we've got teams that are, you know, all integrated together, working on different aspects. We'll have some announcements soon as things start to roll out on that in terms of a speaker and all. But very excited about having the third annual, believe it or not, Kids First Conference. It's hard to believe, and we'll get all the information to you. We also are going to be partnering with Scouting. As you know, Scouting opened their ranks up to girls a few years ago. And, you know, I was very involved in Scouting. And they've reached out to us. The state wants our public schools to be more engaged with Scouting and what they can offer young people in terms of activities and learning and how to be a good citizen and so forth. And, you know, when I look at a lot of our students, you know, their parents or grandparents made choices for them to be in our schools. And many of these kids maybe come from single-parent homes. They don't have the exposure or the access to camping and the outdoors and all those kind of great things that scouting can bring. So we're very excited about this new partnership with scouting and the opportunity to expose our kids to the adventures that it brings, but also just building good, strong citizens and leaders here in the state of South Carolina. You all know I testified last week at the House Ways and Means Education Subcommittee. I thought the testimony went well. We got some good questions. It also gave us an opportunity to promote our new charter school that's going to open in the fall, Palmetto Excel. You know, they're partnered with Palmetto Goodwill down in Charleston, and they're going to be the first adult ed charter school in South Carolina. We've got 500,000 adults in our state. It still amazes me when I say that number, who do not have a high school diploma. And so we got a favorable vote out of that. We'll be going to the Senate here in a few weeks. So very excited about what that school can do. And they want to grow, and they told me the other day that they're interested in growing up along the I-95 corridor. So we get focused on K through 12, but let's don't forget about those adults over age 21 who haven't had access to choice. That's what we're going to do. So we're very excited about that. Attended the SCASA roundtable last week, and we had our state superintendent, Ellen Weaver, there. Dr. Pope and I were both there, and I thought she took a lot of good questions, some good challenging questions, and I thought she did a good job. I know she wants to have her door open to everybody, and I know she's been going around the state meeting with superintendents. But, you know, hopefully we can get her here one day to speak to all of us and share her vision for the department. But we're very excited about her leadership. We already talked about Mac and S.E. Whitmore being here. And again, that's the benefit of having this building. In fact, you know, if Mac's building deal doesn't work out, maybe they just move here. Because they are here literally, I think, every one night every week. And the staff, we always have staff that volunteer to be here to support them. And it was great seeing them here last night. And then they had 49 students, new students that want to sign up. And so we're very excited about that. Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to meet with Sheriff Leon Lott. You all know he's our Richland County Sheriff. He wants his department, I know we're a statewide district, but they offer some really good programs in terms of school safety. And so we're going to have them present. They can't present this spring, but they're going to present in the fall. And he is really excited about a partnership with us. He also wants to do whatever he can do to provide SROs in any of our charter schools in Richland County. So as we continue to grow and have more schools here, he wants to be a partner with us. And of course, we appreciate our partnership with the City of Columbia and the police department here in our hometown. I know we've got an officer here in the building today.
In the back.
In fact, yeah, back there. Let's give him a round of applause. Mayor Rickman has been, he's been a big champion, a big supporter. We've had a chance to sit down with him, and I see him on the radio show about every other Monday when he's coming out and I'm going in, but we just appreciate the local support, and like our doors are open for everybody. Our next School Leaders Summit is on March 23rd. You heard me mention that a few weeks ago. It's pretty much an all-day deal. I do hope that you can stop by. If you can't stop by for the whole thing, I understand, but if you could at least come by for a few minutes. And then the radio show, the Kids First radio show, we moved into a new studio with Kevin Cohen, which is exciting. We've had Dr. Pugh on. We've had our Mr. Whitfield and Tamil Goodson have all joined us on the radio show. And then on the podcast, most recently, we had Dion in here. In fact, Dion popped his head back in last week. And we told him, he said, anytime you're in town, you pop in, and he does. He always stops in to see us. We've got our telephone booth where he goes in there, and he pops out his computer and does work. But we're very excited about him. We talked a little bit about what happens next. And so we're curious about what he's going to do next after this ends. We had Jonathan on the podcast last week and enjoyed the conversation with Jonathan Butcher. And then I had Trey Walker on, the governor's chief of staff, the other day. And I've known Trey for about 35 years now, so we had a really lively conversation about education and school choice. And then also, you heard Melissa Rabin with PACE talk about the parent that drove from Horry County. Well, that parent is going to be on the show coming up. Drew, what, this week? Yeah, next week. And Harold Koffler and I had a great conversation, and he told me the whole story about how his family would come and check into a hotel here in Columbia on Sunday night. He was fortunate he had a job where he could work remotely on Zoom. But, guys, that's dedication. But not everybody can do that. And that's why we've got to continue to go in these areas where kids have no choice. The last thing I'll say is I had one of our staff members give me this plaque that one of our school leaders gave out recently, and they gave me one of these plaques, and it's called The Builder's Poem. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read it. I watched them tearing a building down, a gang of men in a busy town. With a yo heave, yo, and a lusty yell, they swung a beam and a sidewall fell. I asked the foreman, are these men skilled, as the men you'd hire if you had to build? He gave me a laugh and said, no, indeed, just common labor is all I need. I can easily wreck in a day or two what builders have taken a year to do. And I thought to myself as I went my way, which of these two roles have I tried to play? Am I a builder who works with care, measuring life by the rule and square? Am I shaping my deeds by a well-made plan, patiently doing the best I can? Or am I a wrecker who walks the town, content with the labor of tearing it down? When I think about the work that we all do in putting kids first, it's tough. We have a state law that makes it very clear what accountability looks like. And you as a board have to make very tough decisions. And you've had to make some really tough decisions, in the last month. But I think we would all agree that we want to be builders. We want to help build the dream for kids who didn't have a choice, who didn't have a voice, who deserve every opportunity to be the best they can be. And so in this season of new charters, where we're looking at applications and you're going to be reviewing them and you're going to be making decisions about them, it's much more fun to build something really solid that's built for the purpose of giving kids opportunity and hope than to have to go and tear something down. So thank you for what you do as a board, and thanks to our staff for all they do to support you. Thank you.
And Chris, what about Armstrong Williams? You want to say that you're going to do that? Pretty cool.
Yeah, so I don't know if y'all know Cindy's sister, Terry Seckinger, but
You know her?
I know you know her well. But she called me recently, and many of you might know Armstrong Williams. He's from South Carolina. He's from over in the PD. And if you're driving on Highway 501 from the beach, you'll see his billboard over in Marion County. But, he's been a talk radio show host for years. I first met him in 1994 at an event. But he's asked, through Terry, he's asked for me to come and be on his TV show in Myrtle Beach on Monday. He came out with a new book recently about crisis in the classroom, and he wants me to come on the television show. He's syndicated now on 70 TV. He owns 70 TV stations around the country. So I'm going to go in there with a traditional school superintendent, I think a principal, and maybe a private school headmaster. And we're going to talk about kids, and I'm going to give the charter school pitch on the opportunities there. But Cindy's sister Terry's the one that set that up. Now I've got to tell you, and I told Cindy this earlier when I talked to her, I said, I'm going to have to put your picture when you call me and hers, because when you listen to them on the phone, They're exactly the same person.
But she tells you what to do quicker than me.
She does seem to be a little more direct.
Yeah, she is.
Which I didn't think that could be the case. Yeah. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions or comments by the board? Having none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, all right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank
And
you.
we do have lunch. So lunch is served over in the PD room? Yeah.
That was good.
How's Terry doing?
She's doing good.